If there are still people living here in 200 years, they'll know that humanity doesn't belong to an order of being that is separate from the rest of the living community. They'll know this as surely as we know that the earth revolves around the sun. I can make this prediction with confidence because if people go on thinking we belong to a separate order of being, then there will be no people here in 200 years. What everyone wishes I could do, and what I myself wish I could do, is describe how people will be living here in 200 years, if there are still people living here. All I can tell you is how they won't be living. They won't be living the way we do. But why is that? Why can't I tell you how they will be living? The answer is because no one can tell you that. You can see why this is so if you put the question back into the Middle Ages. You might very well have been able to convince Roger Bacon that people would be living differently in 300 years. But how in the world could he have predicted the age of discovery, the rebellion against feudal oppression, the Industrial Revolution, the emergence to power of a capitalist bourgeoisie, and so on? To expect such a thing would have been absurd. You could say that the Middle Ages, if the Middle Ages had been able to predict the Renaissance, then it would have been the Renaissance. Social evolution is inherently chaotic, which is another way of saying inherently unpredictable. This is true even in relatively stable times. Consider the fact that every intelligence agency in the world was taken by surprise by the collapse of the Soviet Union, which days before had looked as stable as Great Britain or the United States. And if social evolution is chaotic in even stable times, then it's going to be even more chaotic in the times ahead, when people are either going to start thinking a new way or become extinct. Of course, I understand why people want to have a description of a sustainable life in the future. They think this would enable them to adopt that sustainable life now, today. But social change doesn't come about that way any more than technological change does. It would have been useless to show Charles Babbage a printed circuit or to show Thomas Edison a transistor. It could have done nothing with those things in their day. And we can do nothing today with a picture of life 100 years from now. The future is not something that can be planned hundreds of years in advance, or even 10 years in advance. Adolf Hitler's 1,000-year Reich didn't even last 1,000 weeks. There has never been a plan for the future, and there never will be. Nevertheless, I can tell you with complete confidence that something extraordinary is going to happen in the next 2 or 3 decades. The people of our culture are going to figure out how to live sustainably, or they're not. And either way, it's certainly going to be extraordinary. The fact that I'm unable to give you a prescription for the future doesn't mean you're just helpless bits of cork clogging in the tide of history. Each of you is about where Galileo was when he was told in no uncertain terms to shut up about the earth moving around the sun. As far as the gentlemen of the Roman Inquisition were concerned, the earth's movement around the sun was a wicked lie they had to suppress, and could suppress. But as he was leaving his trial, it said that Galileo was heard to mutter, "All the same, it moves." Surprisingly little hung on the matter. The future of humanity didn't depend on destroying the medieval picture of the solar system. But the future of humanity does depend on our destroying the medieval picture of humanity's relationship to the living community of this planet. Galileo didn't know that people would someday take space travel for granted, but he did know that they would someday recognize that the earth revolves around the sun. We don't know how people will live here in 200 years, but we do know that if people still are living here in 200 years, they will recognize that we are as much a part of the living community and as thoroughly dependent on it as lizards or butterflies or sharks or earthworms or badgers or banana trees. People don't want more of the same. Yet oddly enough, when they ask me what will save the world, they want to hear more of the same. Something familiar, something recognizable. They want to hear about uprising or anarchy or maybe tougher laws. But none of those things is going to save us. I wish they could. What we must have, and nothing less, is a whole world full of people with changed minds. Scientists with changed minds. Industrialists with changed minds. Parents with changed minds. School teachers with changed minds. Politicians with changed minds. They will be the last, of course. Which is why we can't wait for them or expect them to lead us into a new era. Their minds won't change until the minds of their constituents change. Gorbachev didn't create changed minds. Changed minds created Gorbachev. Changing people's minds is something each one of us can do, wherever we are, whoever we are, whatever kind of work we're doing. Changing minds may not seem like a very dramatic or exciting challenge, but it's a challenge that the human race depends on. The great rethinking that was the Renaissance literally changed the world. It could happen again. It's the challenge your future depends on. Thank you. Thank you.